Hello everyone and welcome to Melbourne. One of the most livable cities in the whole wide world, and I thought today what I will do is I'm going to take you on a little journey around the city. Is she contemplating what the hell have I done? I love art, but I'm not an artist. So much fun. Welcome into my home. Melbourne itself has a few little centre points, and one of them just happens to be Flinders St Station, which is where I'm standing today. Now, Melbourne is my home city, and there is so much to see and do around Flinders St Station and in the CBD. In fact, there is so much, I'm going to create a little series for you called 5 Minutes from Flinders. So this is going to be our first episode, and I'm going to take you on a little journey, which is about a 5-minute walk from Flinders St Station, and highlight some of the interesting things to see and do. So in today's episode, we're going to go and check out the Ian Potter Centre. We're going to see Hozier Lane. We're going to discover the oldest pub in Melbourne, and we'll see what else we can find along the way. Because Melbourne is all about these little hidden gems that you just stumble upon. And the best way to see Melbourne is on foot by walking around. But before we head off on our first journey, I need to tell you a little bit of interesting facts about Flinders St Station here. You see, this station itself is the oldest railroad station or train station in all of Australia. It was opened back in 1910, and the design of it is absolutely iconic. You come here and every day you see people standing out the front, taking photos or doing videos, much like I am today, and they are here for the iconic Melbourne photo. The colour of it is stunning. The dome of it is amazing. It really is iconic. So, opened in 1910, originally was known as Melbourne Train Station, and it was only a couple of platforms. Now it has 11 platforms, I believe. But what's really interesting is underneath the train station is a hidden subway. And this is a subway station that was built back in the 1950s in the hope of a future underground train network. However, it was never used, and it kind of got closed off, and it's just sitting there not being used even today. So that's one interesting thing. The second interesting thing, which is a little bit of a myth, that the design of Flinders St Station was actually intended for a train station in Mumbai in India. That train station is Victoria Station. However, this being a little bit of a myth, they're not quite sure how true it is. And the actual people who won the competition to design this station, this was the architecture company Fawcett, and I can't remember the other guy's name. They also did the Victoria train station in Mumbai. Now there is a myth that they may have switched the designs accidentally, but there's no real hard evidence to back that up. So, Flinders St Station, it is a meeting point for Melburnians, and often people will say, I'll meet you at Flinders. And it's not known as Flinders St Station, it's just known as Flinders. So if someone says, I'll meet you at Flinders, you know you've got to come to this amazing building. So, let's get the episode started and let's head off on our first journey of 5 minutes from Flinders. I'm filming on a beautiful spring day here in Melbourne. It is a Monday. It is a little bit quieter in the city, but this is perfect for what we're going to go and discover today. So Flinders Street entryway is right behind me. And we're just going to head off to the right to our main crossing that you'll see. And we're going to head across into Federation Square. We're going to go through Federation Square up to our first location for the day, the Ian Potter Centre. So let's get going. Federation Square is a great spot to come and admire everything that is great about Melbourne. You've got the skyline of the South Bank behind us, which goes along the Yarra River. You've got Federation Square here, and you've got Flinders St Station right there. So a lot of people utilise this space in Federation Square to either meet their friends, come and have a drink, come and have some lunch, or just come and sit and watch the world go by. Federation Square itself is an amazing complex, but it was never actually here. It was built on top of the rail lines from Flinders St Station. There was a competition to sort of design a new community square for the city of Melbourne. You see, Melbourne never really had a central square or a people's square, a centre square where people could come and meet. There is a spot just up the road of Swanston Street, on the corner of Swanston Street and Collins Street. And that was known as Australia Square, but it was a very small thing. And there was always a conversation to create something here in Melbourne that the locals could utilise as their meeting point. Well, not only their meeting point, but as somewhere as a celebration of everything that is great about Melbourne. So there was a competition for design, and designs went out, and it was a firm from somewhere overseas that who won the competition, and they designed this amazing building that you can see part of it behind me. And it's designed almost like shards of glass, and there are over 5,000 shards, they're called, throughout the whole building. But it's the use of the building which is amazing. It is the home to our first location, called Ian Potter Centre. Now, the Ian Potter Centre is an amazing art gallery that is that celebrates Australian artists. It has over 20,000 pieces of artwork there, and that's where we're going to go first. So let's go. Now, usually the walk to Ian Potter Centre is straightforward from Flinders St Station. However, there is a bit of construction work happening in Melbourne at the moment, including the building of a rail system underneath the city. So therefore, there is a little bit of a detour where you walk through Federation Square, follow the path, and then continue along. Continue along Flinders Street, and as you come along Flinders Street, you're going to see some really interesting buildings, including the Ball and Welch Company building. You're also going to see the Forum Theatre. You'll see St Paul's Cathedral, and you'll see the Acme building, which is part of Federation Square. And all of these buildings all tell an amazing story. Acme is the Australian Centre for Moving Images, and is a free museum 2-minute walk up the road from Flinders St Station towards the Ian Potter Centre. So along Flinders Street, you'll see it. It is a beautiful building as part of Federation Square. And you come in and you get to see all these amazing pieces of art that have been part of Australian cinema history since the time cinema really began. But it's not just cinema, it's TV too. There's a few amazing TV stations here in Australia, and they've produced so much amazing Australian work. And it's great that we have a museum like this that is open to the public, completely free of charge for you to come and check it out. So a quick little pit stop here is perfect. Let's have a quick look around. It is an amazing interactive museum where you can come and you can play games and you can be immersed in Australian culture and Australian TV and cinema history. It's perfect for children, so if you have children, you can definitely bring them along here, and you can see some amazing pieces of art, like this beautiful car from Mad Max behind us. Now, Mad Max is an amazing Australian film that starred Mel Gibson. It was filmed back, I think it was in the 80s, a long time ago. And they have the Mad Max car on display. That was fantastic. What was really cool is when you walk in, they give you these little cards, which has some amazing technology in it. You tap the display in the gallery that you like, and it stores it in here and uploads it to a website, so you can come back to it and look at it later when you go home. So just literally a 1-minute walk away from the Acme Museum, we've got the Ian Potter Centre, and it's inside this stunning part of Federation Square. Just have a look at this. But first, before we head into the Ian Potter Centre, I think it's important that I tell you about Ian Potter himself, because without him, we wouldn't have the famous, amazing Ian Potter Centre. So Ian Potter, he was a notable Australian businessman who was born back in 1902. Now, sadly, he passed away in 1994. However, over his life, he created Ian Potter & Co., which was one of the premier stockbroking agencies in all of Australia. Now, he had so much success with this stockbroking agency that in 1964 he created the Ian Potter Foundation. Now, in creating this foundation, his whole aim was to help support the arts, education, healthcare systems and services around Australia. Now, as part of it, he did donate a lot to the National Gallery of Victoria, and what they did is they named this area the Ian Potter Centre in his honour. So this museum, part of the National Gallery of Victoria, pays homage to Australian artists, and there are over 20,000 pieces of art on display here for you. And the best thing is, it's free for you to come and explore. So let's go and have a look. So the first floor of the gallery, or of the centre, pays homage to Indigenous artists, and absolutely stunning. You've got the stringy bark exhibition, which highlights how the stringy bark was used from the eucalyptus tree to create coverings in the Indigenous community. But I've come upstairs to the second level, where we then move into what looks like contemporary Australian artists. So let's have a quick little look at these. Now, I love art, but I'm not an artist, and I can't really tell you about art, but I really appreciate art. In fact, the type of art that I love is the art that is like a snapshot back in time, where the artist has painted a scene from the 1700s, the 1600s, the early 1900s, or early 2000s. To me, that's like a photograph back in time of what was happening at that time and what the artist was experiencing. I absolutely love that type of art, and you can get that here at the Ian Potter Centre as well. So this whole centre is a fantastic way to come and just spend a couple of hours and really get to know some Australian artists and explore the history of Australian art. I kind of feel like this is a hidden gem in Melbourne, because most people go to the massive art centre, the big National Gallery of Victoria, and they kind of forget about this. It's kind of hidden, but it's within 5 minutes walk from Flinders St Station. I think you'd be mad not to come and check it out. Now behind me we've got a little display of tables and chairs that's just sitting in the middle of this room, and I don't know, maybe call me ignorant, but I look at that and I think, is that art? How is that art? Until you get a little closer inspection and you learn that it's actually the tables and chairs from Cafe Australia, which was, as the display says, a cafe opened in 1916 in Collins Street in Melbourne. And the tables and chairs were considered quite bold for their time. Therefore, they've become art. But it's a celebration of Australian artists here, and sure enough, an artist would have put that together, because the idea was to create a modern cafe based on modern Australian tastes back in 1916. Which is like over 100 years now. That's what they came up with. But this is the type of art that I like to see. Am I a traditionalist? I don't know. But if you go into different art galleries and you see this type of art, you just can't help but be transported back in time and being inside the picture. You're with the people. You're doing what they're doing. And I absolutely love that type of art. Now, you couldn't have an Australian art museum celebrating Australian culture and history without something like this stunning piece here. This is the Pioneer, and it showcases the hard work that the pioneers had to go through with chopping down the trees and building their huts. But if you look closely up in the right hand corner up here, you can see there's a bit of a town or a city there with a bridge, and it looks like this gentleman here is at a grave. So there's so much happening in this painting. And then over on this side, we've got a couple here and a gentleman up the back by his wagon who's lit a fire. And if you look at look at the lady here, I just can't help but wonder, have they had an argument, do you think? Is she contemplating, what the hell have I done? And look, we've got horses up the back here as well. So much fun. So this is the Ian Potter Centre. It's free, it's open, 10 till 5 every day, and you can come and check it out. I highly recommend you do. But we're going to continue along our journey today, and from here we're just going to go across the road to Hozier Lane, which is a Melbourne icon, and you're going to love it. So you walk out of the Ian Potter Centre and you're going to go straight across the road and you're into the next sort of Melbourne icon, well, icon of Melbourne really. It is called Hozier Lane, and it is a living street mural. But before you go across the road, what you need to do is you need to stand here and you need to appreciate this building. So the building is the Forum Theatre, and it is another Melbourne icon in plain view for everyone to enjoy. And it is a stunning building, but it has an amazing historical story to it that goes like this. Originally, that site there was the site of St Paul's Church. Now some people get a little confused because just down the road here we have St Paul's Cathedral. But there was allegedly another church here called St Paul's. That was demolished back in 1929 and the Forum Theatre was built. Now it cost them £500,000 back in the 1929, which is the equivalent of roughly $60 million in today's money. What's that, 2024? But the building itself is really, it's really strange for Melbourne because it's kind of done in this neo-Gothic way. Look at me talking about architecture like I know something, but I don't really, I know nothing, only what I've researched. And so 1929, it was built as a cinema complex. So it was home to one of the first cinemas here in Melbourne. Then as time went along, it got converted into a twin cinema complex. From there, not long after it, the Melbourne Revival Church actually leased out the middle floor and they turned it into a church. Over time, it fell into disrepair, and then it got bought by the Mariner Group and turned into a live music venue. It's now a live music venue, but it's now also home to so many amazing acts that happened throughout Melbourne throughout the year. We have the Melbourne International Comedy Festival, and it is one of the main theatres for the Comedy Festival. And it's here for you to admire and enjoy. But what you're going to do is you're going to cross the road. So we've got the Ian Potter Centre behind me, and you're going to cross the road here, and you're going to head up this laneway, and we're going to check out Hozier Lane. Welcome to Hozier Lane. This is one of the designated street art locations here in the city of Melbourne, and this laneway, which is directly across the road from the Ian Potter Centre, is really a living art gallery dedicated to street art. We've got street art and graffiti, but it really is art. See, in the early 2000s, street art became a bit more prominent in Melbourne and it started to explode with more and more artists. So Melbourne City Council went and legalised some spots for this subculture to really grow and expand. And this area, Hozier Lane, was one of those spots. So you can come along here any time of the day, really, any day of the week, and you will see artists from all over the world creating some amazing projects. In fact, if you come one day and you come the next day, you're going to see things that are completely different because it changes every day. There are artists that just come every day and make new contributions to this laneway. Those pieces of art that are more detailed and the murals that are really, really complicated, we tend to leave them alone a little bit, but if something's a little bit more simpler and plain, it might get covered up pretty quickly. But that's okay, no one takes offense to it, and everybody just enjoys the celebration of street art. Once you've finished in Hozier Lane, you're going to walk back towards the Ian Potter Centre, and then you're going to turn left. This is going to take you in the direction towards the MCG along Flinders Street, but you're only going to walk 70 metres to our next location. Now this location is the oldest pub in all of Melbourne, and it is called the Duke of Wellington Hotel. Now the pub itself was built back in 1853, and then it got licensed in, the pub itself was built in 1850, it got licensed in 1853, and it has been a pub ever since then. And the Duke of Wellington himself, he was the person that led the English against Napoleon and won the Napoleon Wars. But the pub is still here on the corner of Russell Street and Flinders Street, where it has been since the 1800s. And you can come here, you can have some lunch, have a beer, you can just come and check out the history. So let me show you the Duke of Wellington. So the Duke of Wellington Hotel was originally that. It was a hotel. It was set as a boarding house when it was built back in the 1850s. That was just before the gold rush really kicked off here in Melbourne when some gold was found in 1851. So this was one of the first pubs that was built in the township of Melbourne when, I guess, immigration was really starting to kick up because of this new settlement that was fantastic for farming. Now, it's a bit disappointing that the pub hasn't kept its old traditional heritage. However, things change and things need to move forward, and this pub very much has done that, and it is now a fantastic looking sports bar where you can come and enjoy watching some live sport, catch up with friends, have a meal, or enjoy a cold drink. So, cheers to you. Thanks for coming along today. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope you saw some things and you learned that there's interesting things to do that are only 5 minutes from Flinders St Station. So we'll see you next time on 5 Minutes from Flinders.